From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Now at 6, an abandoned youth center in the South Bay burns to the ground. The push from the community to do whatever they can to preserve it.
Plus, BART touting new numbers that show a significant drop in crime. We'll hear from riders about whether it matches up with their experience on the trains.
And Gilroy taking center stage as California's high-speed rail project gets reshaped again. We'll hear from locals who were split over an idea to fast-track the project to the South Bay. Live from the CBS studios in San Francisco, I'm Brian Hack.
And I'm Andrea Nakano. A former youth center in East San Jose burns to the ground after a fire.
And now there's a push to rebuild today. The Alum Rock School District called for and held an emergency vote.
The abandoned Mexican-American Community Services Agency building had fallen into disrepair, closing back in 2015. Several organizations say they were on the verge of redeveloping that site. John Ramos has the story.
The loss of this building came as a shock to a lot of young Latinos who grew up coming here, and now they're asking the school board to do what it can to preserve the legacy of this place. The fire lit up the night at the youth center known simply as MAXA, short for Mexican American Community Services Agency. But for a lot of East San Jose Latino youth, it felt like home.
I was actually one of the ones to help them bring boxes over and stuff over to go into the new building.
That was in 1995, and Mauricio Perez was one of the students whose life was turned around there.
It's kind of heartbreaking, kind of, like, wow, I can't believe that, that happened. It's like watching a memorial, San Jose Memorial burn down.
The MAXA program began as a nonprofit job training site, but quickly became a safe refuge for Latino youth. It operated until 2014, when the program closed up and the property reverted back to the school district. It sat vacant and deteriorating for 10 years, so the fire only hastened the demise of the structure. On this day, the board met to pass an urgency measure that would allow demolition and cleanup to go forward.
To allow the staff to let the contracts on an emergency basis so that this work can get done, so that the site is rendered safe.
But a local activist group called Somos Mayfair appeared at the meeting, urging board members to not just bulldoze the building's remains, but to save what may be possible and commit to rebuilding the MAXA program for a new generation.
A lot of people here in the East Side, our community, we don't have a center like that where we can get our resources. We don't have a center where we can go be kids.
We need you to make a public commitment to reconstruction, to ensure the center to be rebuilt and to be safe for kids.
The kids still need a gym. They still need a library. They still need a place to go hang out and feel safe. A place for them to go when there's problems at home and problems in the streets. It can't be over yet. It cannot be over yet. And we have to do everything in our power, whether it's today or tomorrow, to get together as a community and say, here's what we got to do next.
As a program, MAXA no longer exists, and now the building is gone as well. But if any small part of it can be saved, the advocates see it as a way to keep the mission of the center still alive.
I would like to see that, hey, don't look at this as a setback. Look at this, hey, guess what? Now we can build from the ground up,
School districts don't have a lot of extra money these days, so it's hard to see what could be done. But saving any part of it would be a symbol that the program itself was worth revisiting.
The emergency vote was necessary to bypass the months-long process of putting the demolition process out to bid. Next up will be approval from the County Office of Education before any work can begin.
Well, there's good news in Napa County. The picket fires reached 51% containment as of last night. Fire's been burning in the Calistoga area since the 21st. It has burned roughly 6,800 acres. 5 structures have been destroyed. Weather conditions and the rugged terrain of the area have been some of the biggest issues that firefighters have faced, and CAL FIRE is expecting warm and dry conditions with gusty winds this weekend. Meanwhile, the Garnet Fire burning in Fresno County is only 8% contained. The blaze has burned over 17,000 acres in the Sierra National Forest. It's been burning for about a week, and it was started by lightning. And speaking of lightning, here's Darren.
Right, that's one aspect of weather which we're not going to be talking about today. We're not dealing with that. And I'm happy to say that looking out our windows from the virtual set, I mean, you see a little bit of haze out there, but we're not really looking at a major smoke factor here. So we're not pulling in a lot of smoke from that Garnet fire and even the Pickett fire. Air quality sensors are all good. The real issue are those numbers. You went up 10 to 12 degrees today from where you were yesterday. In fact, let me slide today's daytime highs over, because it is the comparison that probably matters most here. In other words, how much of a jump did we take to start this 3-day weekend from where you were? So at 100 Livermore, you jumped up about 14 degrees. It was 11 degrees hotter in Concord, 13 degrees hotter today in Santa Rosa, 15 in San Jose, and we were 8 degrees warmer in San Francisco, a 76-degree day in the city. This was a noticeable jump, but we don't have any heat advisories, and this is the hottest day of the weekend. Now, even if it is the hottest day, we're not cooling down a whole lot. Technically, Sunday and Monday will be a few degrees cooler, but not all that different. I'm going to show you how we go right back down to average again in this forecast, and I'll also give you the overview on that Garnet fire, show you where the smoke from that might go over the remainder of the holiday weekend. See you with that in a few minutes. Andrea, back over to you.
All right. Thank you, Darren. It's expected to be a busy Labor Day holiday weekend at the nation's airports. And here in the Bay Area, TSA estimates more than 17 million people will pass through their checkpoints to board flights over the long weekend. It's also supposed to be busy on the roads. The White House marked the 3-day weekend by touting record of low gas prices, saying they are at their lowest level in more than 5 years. AAA says California gas prices are actually up 8 cents from last week and 12 cents month over month. And here's a look at gas prices across the Bay Area. In San Francisco, it's $4.73 a gallon for regular gas. Over in Oakland, it's $4.64, and drivers in San Jose are paying $4.57 for a gallon of regular.
Well, as BART tries to win back riders, the transit agency's police department is saying that new numbers show a big drop in crime. Data for the first 7 months of this year shows that violent crime is down by 36% compared to the same period last year. 203 incidents down to 130. The drop happened in categories that included homicides, rapes, and robberies. There's also been a big drop in property crime. Number fell nearly 50% compared to the same time last year. But do riders actually feel safe? We sent our Amanda Harry to find out.
As more people head back to the office and utilize BART, one question always comes up. Is it safe?
I've never had an issue on BART.
Carson Singer has been using BART to get around since he was 12 years old. He's now 24 and has never felt unsafe. New data supports his feelings. A BART Police Department report highlights significant drops in most categories of violent crime and property crime. Singer says lately he's noticed even more precautions.
Definitely seeing more officers. I also feel like having the new gates where everyone has to pay for sure helps with that as well.
BART is in the process of installing new fare gates at all 50 stations that make it more difficult to push or jump through compared to the old gates. Though we've observed some riders still find ways to get through. Singer believes the gates have contributed to fewer people creating safety hazards, but incidents still happen. BART rider Matthew Costa takes the train nearly every day. A few months ago, he became a victim.
Someone pulled a knife on me back in one of the stations in Oakland on my way back to the city. And I stood my ground and said, come on, you're gonna stab me, stab me. I didn't run, I didn't show fear, and they put their knife back. And then I called the BART police on the train.
Costa says BART police responded quickly and removed the person.
They definitely did make me feel safer, and I called them right away when that happened.
That's an example of one of the crime categories that hasn't improved: assault. Aggravated assaults remain stable. Simple assaults, which are a lesser physical attack that doesn't constitute battery, went up. BART Police Chief Kevin Franklin says they're focusing on that.
There are still, a few assaults occurring out in the system. I think it reflects some of the, issues that are occurring in the stations around our system or in the areas around our stations. And that's always an area that I want to work on.
If a crime does occur, Franklin wants to solve it quickly.
We have over 4,000 cameras out in our system. So when these incidents occur, if we're not already there, we've got great sources of evidence to really run down every lead that we possibly can and hold people accountable for it.
He's also working on hiring more officers. The BART Police Department currently has 21 vacancies. He believes filling those gaps will help continue to lower the numbers. But for riders like Singer, he's not concerned and recommends BART.
Don't listen to fear mongering, just use it yourself.
Yeah, by the way, when it comes to cracking down on fare evasion, BART police data shows that fare evasion citations are steady, really, at an average of about 200 a month so far for this year. Right.
Well, San Jose just opened its first ever safe sleeping site for the unhoused. It's located near Watson Park along the Guadalupe River. There are 56 tents there, including 8 that are ADA compliant. This is supposed to be a bridge between moving out of Columbus Park and housing. San Jose has already placed some people in motels, and residents say they feel displaced, but the mayor says this is a big step forward.
It's hot. It's big. I think that, have some things here and a chair and things to put their belongings. But right now it's very warm in here. I hate to be negative, but it's very warm.
As imperfect as a safe sleeping site may be, it is significantly safer, cleaner, and more dignified than the conditions we see in our tent encampments across the city.
City officials say the goal is to move people from tents to stable housing within 30 days, but concerns remain over conditions and whether people will accept the services.
Well, after 2 weeks, the hearing to remove Sheriff Christina Corpus from office wrapped yesterday, with the fate of her job now left to the judge and to the County Board of Supervisors. Sheriff Corpus took the stand again yesterday to defend herself against allegations of having an inappropriate relationship with her chief of staff, misconduct, and retaliation against those who disagreed with her. Corpus called the people who testified against her liars, but the county says there's enough proof to support her removal from office.
The false testimony that some of these, unfortunately, law enforcement officers gave. And if they're lying here, what are they doing in our communities? It brings me a lot of concern.
They stated that the sheriff took no responsibility nor accountability for any of the numerous examples that were shown, and stated that it is clear that she is unfit for the office and must be removed.
The judge in this case now has 45 days to put together his report for the Board of Supervisors. I'll have the final say on removing Corpus. And still ahead here at 6. It's a project decades in the making, California's high-speed rail, how a new roadblock amongst many could actually fast-track a path toward the South Bay.
A pretty big warm-up to get you to Saturday's daytime highs. I'll show you those again in 1 second, and then we will look ahead to tomorrow. But here's the 7-day. For our inland microclimates, we're not really changing things much here for Sunday and Monday. If you want to be technical about it, there's a little bit of a cool down for Sunday by like a degree or two. Same story on Monday, but then look what happens from Monday into Tuesday. You're going to go right back down to average, and here's the good news. We're pretty much going to stay right there going across the 7-day forecast for the inland microclimates. We'll look at the bay coming up here at the end of the forecast. We'll review all this again. First, take a look at what we did on Saturday. The daytime highs today on their own are impressive enough, but it really is the jump from yesterday that stood out about this. It's almost like the 3-day weekend itself, those 3 days got bracketed, and we took a big jump up on day number 1 of the weekend. We're pretty much staying here until we finish day 3. And then right after that, as we just saw, the temperatures are going to start coming back down again. Here's what we're doing tomorrow. So this is Saturday. It's a little better then I should say these are Sunday's numbers. It's a little better than what you did on Saturday, but not much. And if we pick out usually the trouble spot, look at the deep shades of red here, up and down 680 and 580. This is usually where we're going to find some of our hottest temperatures. Antioch, you're going to 100 tomorrow. Concord and Livermore, you won't be that far behind it. Livermore, you did 101 today. So technically it's better, but don't plan on really noticing much improvement through the weekend. We don't have any heat advisories, but this kind of warm-up is close enough that you do want to be thinking about your exposure to heat-related health impacts from this. So we look at the heat risk map, and I'll show you the 3 days on here. When we look at California as a whole, nobody's really overwhelming here. And when we come in for a closer look at the Bay, we actually pretty much stay in that moderate category. So it's orange, it's shaded orange for the Bay. There's Sunday, and then we can take a look at Monday, and you'll see what the Monday colors look like on here. We get a little better in the Bay, actually, because we're going to cool down a degree or two, but it won't be a huge improvement. So you saw the big improvement. That's coming on Tuesday. One other item on here, we were talking about this at the top of the newscast. If you take a look at what's going on the satellite imagery, there is some haze out there. And let's come back over here to the 7-day forecast, because as we take a look at this, you can see that there's a little bit of haze showing up out there. That is coming from the Garnet fire. That's the fire that's burning in the Central Sierra on the other side of the state. I don't anticipate we're going to have a significant issue of smoke from that, though. It just might continue to look hazy over the next few days. All right, so here's the 7-day forecast that shows us the Bay. Numbers in the low 80s still for tomorrow, still around 80 on Monday, and then there's your drop. And then we'll do the same thing here for the Bay. We'll keep those temperatures for the rest of the week at or below average. Let's get through this holiday. Go easy on yourself. It was a big warm-up in a hurry, so just make sure, at least for the rest of the holiday, find the shade, stay hydrated. All right, Andrea, back to you.
Thanks, Darren. Well, still ahead, the CDC is in turmoil after several resignations and terminations this week. What two former senior officials are saying on what motivated them to quit.
There's breaking news at Interstate 280 northbound at Woodside Road and southbound at Edgewood Road, closed because of the Edgewood fire. Forward progress has been stopped on the east side of the road, but fire crews are still fighting the blaze on the southbound side. Traffic is being diverted in that area. Andrea?
Well, Brian, now to a plan that has frustrated Californians for decades. Some new challenges with high-speed rail project are putting the focus on fast-tracking the bullet train to reach more populated areas sooner. All of the work completed so far is between the Central Valley cities of Bakersfield and Madera, and the plan has been to take the tracks further north through Merced before eventually branching out towards Silicon Valley.
But with federal funding getting pulled, plus a number of other delays and cost overruns, and they are epic, there's new talk of an alternative plan that could fast-track a Gilroy station. Len Ramirez asked locals how they feel about that.
Well, Gilroy is increasingly seen as a critical link to the success of the high-speed rail system in California. And so moving forward, it will be necessary from both a logistical and political standpoint to get this community on board.
This Caltrain commuter train pulls into downtown Gilroy like it does every day. But in the not-so-distant future, these same tracks might carry something much faster, California's high-speed rail. For local barber Christian Mondragon, that future is pulling in fast, just like the trains that pass right behind his shop every day.
Right here. Oh, pretty close. Oh, so we hear the train every day.
Christian is a third-generation barber in town, and the family's business roots stretch back 70 years. He wants to stay in business for the long term and sees opportunity and challenges ahead, being on the tracks and a block from the proposed new station.
I'm excited for it, keeping the positivity up, and taking the precaution to keep my customers satisfied and everybody to arrive over here without, obstacles and stuff like that.
Gilroy is poised to become the critical link in high-speed rail, a junction connecting the Bay Area to the Central Valley and Southern California. The plan is for high-speed rail to tunnel under the Pacheco Pass and meet Caltrain here, allowing seamless transfers into Silicon Valley.
Gilroy is a linchpin right now. When we get to that point, I think we'll know we have arrived at a very significant place.
But State Senator Dave Cortese says getting it right is proving difficult. High-speed rail is grappling with delays, rising costs, and even a loss of federal funding under the Trump administration. $33 billion was the original price tag with a 2020 completion goal, but it now could cost $128 billion with full build-out pushed into the 2030s. With uncertain funding, state and rail officials say private investment is vital to keep the project moving.
The right kind of development in those areas can generate not only jobs and prosperity, but actually throw off what we call exaction money or contributions to the high-speed rail itself. So all of that is coming together at a good time, but we have a lot of work to do to pull it off.
With so many challenges now facing California, some question whether it's still worth it.
I think people just want to know where the money is going. Where is it gone?
Others are counting on the economic impact to the area, including 15,000 construction jobs statewide.
Not everyone can work behind a desk and in high tech. We still need blue-collar workers, and it's not, it's a good job.
For decades, Gilroy's identity has been rooted in garlic, a point of pride for the community. But it may one day get a second claim to fame, a hub for high-speed rail.
I'm looking forward to the bullet train, though. I'm looking forward to the train. Should be good.
It's a small town that can play a huge role in bridging regions of California, but spanning the funding gaps remain an unsolved challenge, pushing the start of this critical link further down the line.
It might feel like nothing has happened with high-speed rail, but so far crews have completed 70 miles of guideway, along with 60 structures along 171-mile stretches between Bakersfield and Merced. But other than that, nothing's happened. Still ahead at 6, Northern California's Farm Belt could go from red to blue under California's redistricting plan. We hear from farmers who fear their needs will be left behind.
From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Welcome back. We're following the latest developments of the war in Ukraine.
President Trump now says a meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is unlikely.
This comes as a federal appeals court ruled that most of President Trump's recently imposed tariffs are illegal. CBS News' Willie James Inman has more from the White House.
Here today.
Less than 2 weeks after meeting at the White House with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and after repeated vows to push for a meeting between Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin.
And they should meet, I think, before I have a meeting and probably close the deal.
President Trump now says a bilateral meeting between Putin and Zelensky is unlikely to occur. He made the remarks Friday during an interview with the Daily Caller. The president also said during the interview that a trilateral meeting will happen without specifying when. The president's comments come as the leaders of Germany and France met this week to discuss Ukraine. French President Emmanuel Macron said Russia's President Putin would be duping President Trump if he fails to commit by Monday to meet with Zelensky. Members of the Trump administration insist the president is doing all he can to end the war.
President Trump inherited President Biden's war, and he's working steadfastly to end the killing, and that's something that everyone in the world should celebrate.
In other global news, the Trump administration faced a setback on Friday after a federal appeals court ruled that most of President Trump's tariffs are illegal. According to the ruling, the law the president invoked when he handed down reciprocal tariffs does not explicitly give him the power to do so. The court's decision does not go into effect until mid-October, allowing time for an appeal. In a statement, Attorney General Pam Bondi called the decision wrong and said the DOJ would appeal the case to the Supreme Court.
And in a Truth Social post last night, President Trump said that if these tariffs ever went away, it would be a total disaster for our country. Andrea?
Well, Walgreens and CVS say they are now limiting access to the COVID vaccine in some states and in a few not offering it at all. That's based on changes to recommendations from the CDC. CBS News' Christian Benavides reports this comes amid growing internal backlash at the federal agency.
Walgreens and CVS Pharmacy are limiting access to the COVID vaccine as the companies attempt to follow state guidance that require approvals from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Rebecca Adams is an editor with the KFF Health News.
Vaccines would be available for people who are 65 and older or have at least one medical condition, and healthy people could still potentially get the shots if a doctor prescribes it.
It comes amid recent fallout at the agency after top CDC officials resigned, accusing Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. of trying to erode public trust in vaccines.
CDC is being weaponized.
Dimitri Daskalakis and Deb Howery told CBS News that an influential outside panel handpicked by RFK Jr. has been questioning long-settled science on vaccines and promoting unvetted studies.
Based on discussions we had heard, it seemed like some decisions had been made before there was even the data or the science to support those.
The allegations have alarmed Republican Senator and Dr. Bill Cassidy, who warned this week that any recommendations made by the group should be rejected as lacking legitimacy.
CDC is an agency that is very troubled for a very long time.
But the White House has defended RFK Jr., whose agency overhaul, he says, will make America healthy again.
Secretary Kennedy has been a crown jewel of this administration.
CDC sources say the agency's director was fired this week after she refused to sign off on changes to the vaccine policy.
Confirmation. Well, CBS News has learned the Pentagon is considering speeding up the process to bring back ex-service members who were discharged for refusing the COVID vaccine.
This week, California's Supreme Court rejected a second lawsuit from state Republicans seeking to block the ballot measure to redraw our congressional districts. If approved on November 4th, Prop 50 could put Democrats in the majority in some Republican strongholds that include Butte County, where farmer and water issues are top of mind. Kara St. Cyr spoke to voters there who say that they're afraid their interests will now be ignored.
My family's been farming in the area since 1861.
Farming is in Ryan Shore's blood.
So I'm the sixth generation.
Shore Farms is located in Congressional District 1, Butte County, the beating heart of Northern California's Farm Belt.
But this will be more than likely a rice field. We might do some cover cropping in here this fall.
His district is at the center of a political tug of war between Democrats and Republicans, both vying for extra congressional seats. A newly proposed map would draw new party lines, limiting the impact of Republican voters like Shore.
In terms of the broad geographic spread, it's probably divisive just to split up these communities and really make it difficult to be represented equally and fairly across the spectrum with communities of interest, right? Those interests are very different and very unique.
The new map slices District 1 in half, cutting out heavily Republican counties. Lawmakers then extended the border to include parts of Sonoma and Marin County, dyeing the once red district deep blue.
People here, I think, are going to feel pretty much abandoned.
The new lines aim to oust Republican Congressman Doug LaMalfa from a post he's held since 2013.
I know this seat doesn't belong to me, and it's not forever anyhow. But I guess the bigger concern is if this district is shifted into basically being a Bay Area district, what's going to happen to all the other people we're talking to?
If approved, California's Republican representation would dip from 9 seats to 4. LaMalfa says rural concerns will be buried under Bay Area voices, including the cost of this redistricting effort.
It's projected that it's going to cost the state $235 statewide to run it, and the counties I represent, they've sent us their projections, and it's going to add up to right at $4 million. These are already small, struggling counties. They just had to put a new sales tax here to pay for police and fire and libraries.
But he's also concerned about water policy. 20 miles south of LaMalfa's farm, Dr. Dave Daly echoes his concerns.
They don't. Everybody worries about water. Everybody has changed and improved their irrigation systems to try and be more efficient. You know, it's timers on your wells, and it's lots of things you do.
According to the California Water Impact Network, about 80% of the state's developed water is set aside for farmland as of 2025.
Moot. Way around. Way out.
But Daly is scared of more caps on how much he can use.
Load up.
Redistricting adds fuel to the fire.
It makes no sense to me, just like it makes no sense in Texas, disenfranchising people who should be represented in Congress.
The decision is ultimately in the hands of the public. The map will be sent to a vote in November.
I think that's one of the frustrations.
Shore is anxiously waiting.
People, 8, 9, 10 hours away in San Diego County, Los Angeles County, are going to decide how our votes are diced and sliced in what congressional district here in Northern California. I think that is part of the issue, right?
An issue with the power to change everything.
State Democrats say they will only redraw the lines if Texas moves forward with its plan to give Republicans an extra 5 seats in the House.
Well, a Verizon network outage affected customers across the country today. The wireless provider says the outage was caused by a software issue that caused phones to go into SOS mode. The outage started around 9 o'clock this morning and peaked around 12:30 when the company received about 23,000 reports on the issue. And AI isn't only for software. Coming up, we take a look at how AI-powered robots are driving a different kind of real estate push in San Francisco.
Now you can get your KPIX news, weather, and live stream all in one place on the CBS News app. Download it free today.
As college and professional football start back up this week, a new research is being conducted in the Bay Area to diagnose CTE in living patients. Joining us live now is UCSF neurologist Dr. Gil Rabinovich. Dr. Rabinovich, let me ask you the first question. Until now, CTE could only be diagnosed posthumously. So tell me a little bit about the study and how it might change that.
Thanks so much. Really a pleasure to join you this evening. So you're absolutely right. Currently, the only way to diagnose individuals with CTE or chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is a degenerative brain condition that can cause neurologic and psychiatric decline in people who have been exposed to repetitive head impacts like professional football players, could be diagnosed with a brain autopsy, staining for a toxic brain protein called tau, which accumulates in the brain, poisons nerve cells, and causes loss of cells and neurologic and psychiatric decline. The study that we are conducting is called Diagnose CTE. It's a 5-year study that's going to recruit 225 either professional or college football players across the country at 5 different clinical sites. These individuals are going to come in for detailed neurologic examinations, medical examinations, blood draws, and advanced brain imaging. And our goal is really to characterize the symptoms that can predict the presence of this devastating brain pathology in living patients and to develop blood tests or imaging techniques that will allow us with MRI scans or other advanced brain imaging like PET scans to identify this toxic tau protein in the brain during life and be able to diagnose the disease in living people. And of course, diagnosis is absolutely the fundamental and first step in order to develop treatments for this disorder.
Dr. Rabinovich, now, I believe that you just started phase 2 of this trial in April. Is there something that you have learned in the short amount of time that really stands out to you?
Yes, so you're right. This study began in 2015 and it led by Boston University, and this is really phase 2 of the study. There's a lot of focus right now in high school and college and the NFL on concussions, but it turns out that concussions aren't the main predictor of who is going to develop CTE during life. Rather, it's the total amount of exposure to football head impacts. There's so many impacts that occur in practice or in game time that don't actually cause a concussion, but people might feel a little bit dazed, or the parlance is they get their bell rung, and it's that accumulation of hundreds, thousands, or maybe tens of thousands of those head impacts over time that actually predict CTE. Another really important thing we've learned is that even people who have played football, this disorder doesn't just affect people in the NFL. People who have played college or even occasionally high school football players can develop this tau protein. And what we really need to learn is who is at risk, who is more susceptible to this disorder, and conversely, who might be resilient, and identify those resilience factors in order to develop treatments.
Now, just for this reason, I put my son to baseball. I'm like, you're not touching football, buddy. But it feels like kids are starting football younger and younger with flag football, which seems a little less contact in that sport. But I'm sure there are still cases where concussions do happen. What should parents know about football and kids from what you have learned in this study so far?
The earlier you start, the higher the risk. There is good evidence now that kids who start to play full tackle football before age 12 are at higher risk for developing this disorder. The reason is that the neck muscles aren't fully developed, and so even though the little kids aren't 350-pound linebackers that are hitting each other, but because their necks are a little bit floppy, the head really can jiggle around with impacts. And so starting full tackle football at such a young age can really increase the risk. Flag football is a much safer option. Baseball's great. I played a lot of baseball growing up. I love baseball. And there are a lot of other sports that might have lower risk for kids. If kids are going to play football, they really should start at an older age, maybe at high school, in order to prevent that increased risk that they have if they start playing very, very young.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what else is revealed in this study. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Well, coming up, we'll introduce you to an AI company bringing some four-legged innovation in San Francisco, how the industry boom is driving a new kind of real estate push. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. A celebration of what was once banned in front of San Jose City Hall this afternoon.
Families across the South Bay gathered for the city's third annual Lowrider Day.
The festival commemorates the day that San Jose lifted its ban on cruising back in 2022. A restriction that advocates say had unfairly targeted Latino drivers.
The celebration also featured a lowrider roll-in where classic cars and modern rides cruise down Santa Clara Street.
Beautiful cars, as you can see, community gathering, and just big celebration of how far we have come in removing, since we lifted the ban out here in California and San Jose.
Today's celebration also featured lowriders, bikes, live music, and a hip-hop exhibition. Darren?
Andrea, we've got 2 more days of, well, the heat that you just did. We really took a big jump up today. I showed you that in the last visit. I'll give you the review on today again in 1 second. But I just wanted to start out by showing you what's coming next. Here are the next 2 days of the holiday. There really is very little difference. Technically, we might cool down a little bit for inland microclimates. And the Bay, you'll see the Bay 7-day forecast in a bit. But it's not enough. The real change is going to happen right here. Look at the drop from Monday on the holiday into Tuesday when we go back to regular life. The weather's going to go back to what it's been doing all summer, and those are actually average daytime highs when we get there. As fast as we warmed up today, and it was like 10 to 15 degrees from yesterday to get us here, we're going to cool down just about that fast again when we get to Tuesday. So there is good news once we get there. Let's come back over to the monitor over here. We'll take a look at what some of the other issues are. First of all, these are those numbers for today. You can see the jump, 15 degrees. You went up 15 in Livermore from yesterday. That is a lot. You really noticed that when you stepped outside this afternoon. It felt totally different today. No heat advisory. And it's going to get a little better tomorrow, so I don't anticipate we'll see heat advisories. But we're definitely looking at some moderate heat risk from this for heat-related health impacts. 11 degrees warmer today in Concord. Even in the city, went up 9 degrees today. Got up to 77 degrees in San Francisco today. These are noticeable jumps. All right, the other item is the smoke coming off the Garnet fire. This is the updating satellite. This is live, taking a look at the last 3 hours. You can see that plume of smoke coming off the Garnet fire. Look at the direction it's going. There's the bay over there. I don't think it gets here, and here's why I would say that. We'll put this into the Futurecast, and now you can visualize that column of smoke. Deeper the shade of purple and red, the higher the concentration of smoke, and you can see how it becomes a bit more diffuse, and you get a bit farther away. Let's play that forward, and that's about as close as it's going to get. That's early tomorrow morning. We do see some of the smoke get pulled, certainly over the Central Valley. They're going to be looking up at smoky skies for Stockton, Modesto, Sacramento. It'll be a bit hazy looking, and we'll probably have a bit of a red sunrise tomorrow in the Central Valley. But here, I don't think we get that effect. Perhaps at sunrise, as the sun's coming up from the east and having to come through all this stuff tomorrow morning at 6, 7 a.m., sunrise might look a bit redder tomorrow, but the rest of the day should be just fine. All our air quality sensors right now are in the good category, and I don't anticipate we're going to have any issues going forward from a smoke standpoint. We're also not getting any marine layer here. Not tomorrow. These are high clouds. Look at tomorrow at like noon. That's a shield of cirrus clouds that comes overhead in the middle of the day, and then that clears out. I don't think those are even the kinds of clouds you'll notice much. They'll be thin, wispy-looking cirrus clouds. But I'm looking for the marine layer on here, and I don't see it. Even on Monday morning, it doesn't really fill in that much. All right, let's come back to the 7-day forecast. We'll pick the story up again. We left off looking at the inland microclimate. I'm going to switch this out now. Let me show you what this looks like in the Bay. Those temperatures also did a bit of a jump today. San Francisco at 77. You'll be back down into the upper 60s in the city by Tuesday. But for the Bay, it'll be low to mid 70s for much of the rest of next week. It'll still be relatively warm, though, here, at least for the rest of this holiday weekend. All right, Brian, back to you.
All righty, thank you, Darren. Coming up next, take a look at how AI-powered robots, everything is AI now, are driving a different kind of real estate push in San Francisco. Andrea.
And remember, you can watch us anytime, anywhere on our streaming service, CBS News Bay Area. Catch all of our live newscasts, plus news and weather updates throughout the day. You can find us on the free CBS News app or on Pluto TV. We'll be right back.
AI.
Or AI.
And welcome back. What they are calling artificial intelligence, sometimes it's just software, is starting to drive a different sort of real estate boom in San Francisco. Rents are up. Plenty of office space still lies vacant.
But now AI companies are clamoring for manufacturing space for robotics. One AI company that started in Silicon Valley Garage is growing its footprint in the city, and its founder gave our Kenny Choi an inside look at what they're working on.
When Jan Lippard takes his dog for a walk, it quickly garners attention. He hasn't named his robotic quadruped yet.
It is a little bit scary looking.
Inside Open Mind, an AI robotics startup, a team of researchers and the Stanford engineering professor are locked in to make next-gen bots more capable, adaptable, and collaborative in real-world environments, including inside your home.
If the quadruped dog does not see its owner for 10 or plus minutes, it will explore the house, go find its owner, and make sure the owner is okay.
At a nearby park in Soma, curious onlookers are impressed.
I've seen robots before, but bigger ones trying to be industrial and stuff, and I've not seen ones as approachable and as engaging as these guys, so very cool.
Open Mind will soon deploy its quadrupeds for testing. Math lessons for kids, home security, and caregiving checks for seniors are on the list.
We see the software and technology and the hardware to be essentially ready to go now.
As AI startups in San Francisco continue to expand, real estate companies are seeing an uptick in demand for manufacturing space in the city, from Soma to the 3rd Street corridor. Robert Sammons is Senior Director of Research at Cushman & Wakefield.
It's definitely a change for San Francisco. San Francisco historically has been a software market.
By comparison, Silicon Valley has more than 160 million square feet of R&D space. San Francisco has just 8 million zoned for manufacturing. Salmon says last year, only one tenant was looking for that kind of real estate, about 3,000 square feet. This year, it's a different story. 10 tenants are in the market, asking for more than 650,000 square feet of what's called PDR space, production, distribution, and repair.
Everything from automotive to robotics to some of the chip makers, they're all kind of looking at space in San Francisco, really to be close right now to the AI tenants that are here.
Jan and his crew are several steps closer to what they envision in the near future.
Our main priority is to prove that the notion of thinking machines broadly deployed into homes, hospitals, and schools is no longer science fiction.
Just a year ago, OpenMind was in its infancy, being developed in his Palo Alto garage.
Your workspace is really lively and inspiring.
Now it's commanding others and taking center stage in San Francisco.
OpenMind is also now looking for a larger space after its latest round of funding, raising $20 million.
The company recently announced it will start rolling out 10 thinking dogs. And let's face it, we need 10 thinking dogs to homes next month to collect data and improve its technology.
What's wrong with real dogs?
They're not thinking.
Well, that's kind of what makes them cute.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here at 11. Until then, the news continues streaming on CBS News Bay Area. For now.